Hello, everybody, and welcome to another mass session. And I'm delighted today to be joined by my good pal Dom Garner from 10,000 Hours. How you doing, Dom?
I'm good, Marty. I'm good. Thank you.
Good stuff. I see you're wearing quite a natty T-shirt there. What you got?
Yeah. So I'll do a very, very quick introduction. Look at that.
Live.
Shoots live. Yeah. So this actually it's already a couple of years old. Interestingly, Shoes Live was a sort of mini campaign that we adopted when we launched 10,000 Hours, which is 3 years ago now. And it was, without all the fanfare, but it was really at that time, it was our kind of call to action, if you like, for our client environment to select live events as their preferred communications channel. So, already 3 years back, but now more than ever, I think it was right to sort of refresh that concept and to bring Choose Live back into the fray. I'm just glad I didn't throw away the T-shirt.
It still fits. That's good. Dom,
well,
give us a brief introduction about yourself and about 10,000 Hours. What's the story behind that, so our audience can get an understanding?
Yeah, cool. Okay, that's great. So I'm Dom. I'm the co-founder of 10,000 Hours. I'm 44. I'm celebrating this year 21 years in the events industry, so already sort of half of my life dedicated to a lack of sleep, but excitement around what we do. I have worked predominantly in the business-to-business event space, and about 15 years ago I met Martin Richardson, who is the other co-founder of TTH. And Martin and I have worked together on and off for about 15 years, and Martin is a really super clever, strategic and creative thinker. And we just have that yin-yang balance and really enjoyed the process of kind of working through client problems and solutions and delivering excellent live campaigns and programs. So it was inevitable, I think, that we were going to come together and formalize our relationship, which we did in 2017. And, I think at that point, we were convinced more than ever that the events world was, and we say this quite a lot, just desperate and primed for innovation. And so that's what we have attempted to deliver, not just for our clients, but for the industry, a kind of a new way of approaching events much more strategically, with much more value associated to it. So that's how we do our work.
Well, I guess when it comes to strategic thinking, there's never been really a more pertinent time to reassess how you do things. And, anecdotally, I think a lot of people have been caught out and exposed for not having proper event strategies over the last few months. When we were faced with all these event cancellations and postponements, a lot of people were having to just quite switch to get their content out online. And there's a lot of perhaps afterthought out there, a lot of people trying to catch up. I mean, everyone's accepted digital for the time being, but do you think this is going to be it for now, or what are live events going to look like when we're allowed to run them again?
Oh, that's a really big question. I think the hardest thing at the moment, and we have this conversation maybe 10 times a day with clients. I think the hardest thing to do just now is to try and predict the near future. Everybody's kind of wondering how much longer we're going to have to wait before live face-to-face comes back, and it will inevitably. I think what we can say with some level of certainty is that event delivery in the future will exist as a hybrid solution. We're sort of seeing what we're going through just now. We're kind of coining the phrase of the great experiment. And I think that everybody, frankly, accepts that what they are doing isn't perfect, but it is working. And I think that in this great experiment, brands are learning that they are able to reach far wider audiences through digital. With that come the challenges of producing a live virtual event to the same standards that you would when you would ordinarily employ rehearsals and technical support and producer support. So there's a little bit of that refining that we have to do. But yeah, I think that this approach is in for the long haul. And even when we are back together face to face, I think that brands and clients will rightly be asking, but how can we continue to use this technology to maximize our reach? And I think as an industry, we need to accept that very quickly and then look to become the leaders of those kinds of discussions with our clients moving forward. That's certainly the approach we're taking.
I mean, you mentioned that any live experience, any live event needs some manner of strategy. I mean, are you able to simplify that into some sort of bare bones analogy? Give us an example of what a solid strategy might look like.
Okay. Actually, the first point there, Marty, is that it's not every event should have a strategy. I think that when you're looking at an individual event, then you're already too granular. Actually, the strategic approach that we take with our clients is not around an individual event. It's around a program, or maybe even an annual, or in some circumstances, even longer term thinking. And I think that that's the important distinction. Don't think of strategy being an event direction. Think of it as how you design and how you realize an entire live campaign. Simply put, the way that we deliver strategy is that we look to align the way that live events can be used to further a business strategy. Okay, and if you bring that down into perhaps the most obvious of business strategies, and that would be a plan around business growth. And so what we look to do is that we look to think about how our client or how our brand can use the live events tool as a way of sustaining that business growth. It's important that live events are a contributor to a much wider business plan. And I think that if you approach your event or your live experience planning that way, then at the end of that period of time, you will have had a series of interactions with prospects and customers that are contributing to that growth. It makes your events far more effective, far more accountable for success.
I mean, we've touched on it already. The landscape is obviously going to change, and digital, of course, has a place. But I mean, where do you draw the line? I mean, how do you decide whether I need to take this event to a digital channel? I need to run it live. I know you mentioned hybrid, but how do you make the distinction? How do you kind of work out what's best for your business strategy then?
Yeah, it's a great question, and just right at the moment, that's the $64,000 question, because there are a number of different avenues that are available to us. The way that we have seen digital, and when we talk about digital, this is far more than just virtual events. This is the way that digital marketing has already for a decade or more been a real threat to the events industry. They coexist perfectly. I think one of the important strategic considerations is, and as an industry, we have to accept and we have to acknowledge that for a marketeer, digital, so be that web or social, has been a really highly effective channel for use. It is instantaneous data, and in relative terms, it's very cheap to execute. And that's been a huge threat to the events industry because, frankly, until now, we as an industry have found it very difficult to be able to kind of deliver that same kind of measurement or that same kind of accountability. So I think from a strategic viewpoint, we have to work much harder now to be able to demonstrate event live experience effectiveness and measurement in exactly the same way that you can with digital marketing evaluation. And so I think that's an important distinction. When we start to talk about delivering digital or virtual events, frankly, that's a tactic that we're able to use just now. And I think as we move forwards, I think it literally will become a case of live event with this hybrid edition of virtualizing the event to be able to reach a much wider audience that isn't necessarily constrained by its geography or borders.
Well, I guess budgets are all going to look very different after this as well, aren't they? An online event is not going to cost as much, say, as a live activation. That doesn't mean it can't happen, but I guess as an agency in your position, you've got an extra burden of responsibility to really demonstrate that value and that it will achieve the objectives of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you hit the nail right on the head there. This is a really important factor, and this is where the whole Choose Live campaign started, and why we think it's such an important time now to kind of reinforce that message. At the moment, our clients, particularly our marketing leads, are having to make a choice. And so Choose Live is around our kind of acceptance that they're having to make that choice just now. You're absolutely right. We're seeing it in real time that marketing budgets are already being reduced for the next quarter. Marketing teams are reducing in size, and so there's now some real demand and pressure put upon those resources, which could be an opportunity for us. But we will, as an industry, be asked to deliver campaigns and projects for less money in future. And so we will be challenged, I think, once again, with the threat of a potentially more cost-effective marketing channel in digital. Back to web marketing, back to social marketing, which, as I say, can be delivered at a far more cost-effective rate and provides that instantaneous data. So yeah, as an industry, we need to really start to think about how we're able to more effectively deliver that accountability and deliver that measurement against those wider business objectives. It's critically important for our survival.
So lastly then, before I let you go, Choose Live, that's what we want to get trending. What's the call to action? What can people do to spread that message?
Yeah, okay. So, and again, I make no apologies for recycling something that we initiated 3 years ago. I think there's two avenues of call to action here. Firstly, this is something that we're not laying claim to this as being a piece of 10,000 hours intellectual property. It's not. It's just absolutely relevant. It's right that we share it with our industry, and it's absolutely right that we encourage people within the professional events and agency space to start to use Choose Live as a call to action to their market, to our market. We need to have a very, very strong position. The great thing about Choose Live is that it's instantly kind of recognizable. It's the simplest of messages, so you can't really go wrong with that. But with that, I think then there's a responsibility that we as an industry, our call to action, is to be able to then back up our statement. It's then our ability to be able to give the confidence to our marketeer clients. It's our ability to be able to think and deliver strategically and to really place the value that's so desperately needed in our live events industry right now. So that's how and why we would like to share this. As a business ourselves, we see this as being a really important message to our clients. We've made some commitments around new appointments with our clients to be able to use some of the revenue that we generate as a way of being able to give back to the wonderful people who have given so much over the past few weeks and will obviously continue to do so. But also a commitment to bring our freelance communities back into our work as quickly as possible. And so, that's our commitment as a business, and perhaps that's something that can be adopted by our other agencies right across the landscape.
Dom, that sounds really good. And the irony of Choose Live on a recorded video interview like this is not lost on me. I'm sure it won't be lost on the readers anyway. Dom Garner, 10,000 Hours, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Marty. Thank you.